Looking to be more productive and jump those hurdles of change and challenge easier? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Thrive in Life show. I'm your host, Zaheen Nanji. First of all, I have to apologize because I have been away for 2 months. And you may be wondering, why hasn't she done any of her shows lately? Or why haven't I listened to any of her? But, oh, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, know that I also have a podcast. So we take the same interview and we convert it into a podcast. So whether you're a listener on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio, or you just like watching on my website or on YouTube, it's the same thing. So thank you, first of all, for taking the time out of your busy day to listen or to watch the show. Now, yes, I've been away for 2 months, and that's because I took some time to work on a couple of things. One was my book, which is about my journey through cancer and what I learned and how I bounced back. So that should be coming up pretty soon. So I took the month of December to just work on that. And then the next thing that I worked on in January is a 4-week motivation course, because a lot of people that I coach, there's one thing that always comes up is, how do I motivate myself? So I decided to do that. And if you want to access that course for free, all you have to do is go to zaheennanji.com/motivation. Again, that's zaheennanji.com/motivation. Okay, so let's get into our first show of the year with our guest, Elizabeth. I'm just going to go into a quick bio first, and then we'll start with the questions and learning more about her. So in 2011, Elizabeth was awarded a 6-week residency to the Martha's Vineyard Writers Residency. She's the author of the upcoming Southern historical fiction novel, West of Center, as well as her health book. And that's why she's here, by the way, because I learned about her health book, which is Your Best Health by Friday. I love the title, Your Best Health by Friday: How to Overcome Anxiety, Depression, Stress, Trauma, PTSD, and Chronic Illness, which was released October 2017, so not too long ago at all. We're actually recording this in February of 2018. Elizabeth has been fortunate to study with some excellent teachers. Learning a form of specialized writing helped her start her healing process after being diagnosed with autoimmune illness. And she's also fortunate to discover a specific yoga, and I'm not going to share that yet because I want you to talk to us about that, Elizabeth, and meditation to further help her heal, which had the side benefit of preventing writer's block. I know all about that because I too have some books. So in her search for answers, she's now the leading expert when it comes to brain development, health, and wellness. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Zaheen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So tell me about this special yoga that you do.
Well, they call it Tibetan Yoga because it's meditation with movement. It's a type of Un meditation, it's called, which is the indigenous meditation to Tibet. And it is very good for people who have ADHD or trauma, like PTSD, which I grew up with, being a military brat. Actually, military brats have a higher rate of PTSD because of our parents' own trauma, especially if they were active in the military.
Wow.
So it was the first time that I really had success with meditation. Other than that, it ended up being a very stressful and anxiety-producing thing to try to meditate. So I could go through a yoga session with a teacher and be feeling so mellow at the end of it, and then they would end with 5 minutes or 10 minutes of meditation. It would throw every positive thing that I had accomplished in my yoga session out the window. So you can believe that I was very grateful to find Tibetan yoga.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. Now, you in in your book, I love the title. And so when I saw that on Facebook, I said, I have to have her on my show because so many people go through so many different journeys in their life. And I too went through one in 2016. So how do you heal trauma? I mean, so many people say, it just takes time, just hang in there, but you can heal it. How do you do that?
So there is an aspect of trauma that just takes time. And that's where the nervous system kind of over time seems to calm down. Certainly what ends up happening is we have less touch, less contact with that, but it actually doesn't go away because the right hemisphere of our brain is processing all of the unconscious things that have ever happened to us. It doesn't have a sense of time. It's all connected to our emotional system, our emotional brain. Our emotional brain sends neuropeptides out into the body for us to learn from the experiences that we go through. And so that's why oftentimes people who've had trauma in their lives will end up having it come up again. The body and the mind is trying to learn from it so that we can increase our odds of survival, so we can avoid having the experience again. And so until we really process it and accept what's happened to us in our past, we won't be free of it because those neuropeptides will act as a potential energy basically in our body. And the inflammation that they cause by building up in our body can eventually lead to disease. So that's motivation right there to start developing some tools to calm the nervous system down, I think. Certainly, I had no interest in having any of these practices. They were forced on me. Fortunately, I finally heard the messages before it was too late.
Interesting. So how can someone in pain help themselves?
Well, an important thing to remember about pain that I certainly didn't know, maybe it's to learn about pain, is that everything's on the same circuit board. We only have one set of nerves, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. And a lot of times, because of trauma in our childhood, we don't have access to certain types of emotion. So we might not be in touch with our fear, particularly if we are men. It's not okay to feel that, so we stuff it. And for women, we tend to be discouraged from being in touch with our anger. So over time, we end up accumulating these neurochemicals in our body of things that we're avoiding feeling. And it's not on a conscious level, it's on an unconscious level. And we end up having this buildup of contraction in our bodies. The muscles are almost stiffening and pushing away.
Oh, yes.
And over time, we might end up, for example, I think it's very common in our culture to end up with a lot of back pain. And it's really part of this emotional avoidance. This is one of the reasons why I recommend psychotherapy, because it gives us the toolkit to start accessing what might be going on under the hood and start to address how to heal and actually reduce pain in the process.
So that's psychosomatic therapy is what you're talking about?
Yes. Basically, any kind of therapy that connects us to the body can help us access what's going on in the body. It's a normal human thing to have this kind of process happen. I think a lot of people want to reject the idea that when we hear psychosomatic, we just kind of think crazy, but it's a normal process.
No, it's true.
Yeah, and so many people who end up in chronic pain, or if you see people walking down the street who have a lot of curvature in their spine, especially as they get older,
yeah,
you know that they've gone through trauma in their life and they haven't processed it.
Wow. Okay. And the reason I asked you that is because I completely believe that, in a sense that when I was going through my cancer journey, I would always, ask myself, how, why? And of course, with the doctors, they would say, well, it happens. We just don't know why it happens. It could be the environment. It could be food. It could be, but I honestly believe when I look back in my life, especially a couple of years before I was diagnosed, it was actually, I think it was stress.
Yes.
Yes. And I know that I was overwhelmed, I was burnt out, but I was faking it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm okay. and that was wrong. I think I just had to just keep the boundaries and say, no, this is my time. I'm done. I can't take on anymore. But I was faking it. And now I teach other women who are those high achievers, just like I am, that, you know what, we need to take time for ourselves and just know how to. I know everyone says nowadays there's no balance, you just have to, and I go, that's fine. I completely understand that too, but we just need to flow in and flow out.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, stress really does matter because it's the chronic buildup and never saying no that overwhelms the body. And we end up sort of being overstressed in our nervous system at a nervous system level. So we end up in chronic fight or flight. So the nervous system is meant to ramp up to a threat and then ramp down. And you could think of the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight system, as a muscle in the body. And the more we do, the more we are developing that muscle. But it's also important to be able to release and let go. And that's its own muscle in a sense. That's its own nervous system pathway called the parasympathetic nervous system. So these two sides need to be in balance. And when they're not, we can overutilize the adrenals are going to be overutilized, for example, and underutilize the rest and digest mode. That's the parasympathetic. So they're in competition with each other in a sense that, so for example, the parasympathetic system needs a lot of vitamin C for the digestive system to be able to properly digest food. It also needs to be able to come into full muscle, as it were, because if not, the blood is not going to be in that area. It won't be possible to digest food and absorb it properly. Because in the sympathetic nervous system, all of the blood goes to the limbs in order for us to move. Run away from that tiger. So that is in competition. And also the adrenals take a lot of vitamin C. So it's a factory, our body. And our body has the option to, hey, today we're going to produce adrenaline, or today we're going to rest and digest. And it's, happening on 3 times a day. We absolutely need to be in rest or digest mode for a few hours, right? In order to digest the meals that we're eating. So that's why it's just so important to make sure that we have these tools to calm our nervous system down. Otherwise, all of that vitamin C is going to the adrenals to produce the adrenaline and away from that digestion.
That makes so much sense, Elizabeth, because my husband and I have a wellness center, and we see clients coming in, and when we treat them, that's one of the things that we find is that stress and digestion go hand in hand, just go hand in hand. And we actually offer treatments that can help with that, but we always tell them you need to take time for yourself, and so one of the tools, as you say, is it could be essential oils, it could yoga, it could be meditation, it could be exercise in any form, it could be walking outside.
Yes.
And so we always tell them, take that time, because we know what it can do to the digestive system. And that's why you have issues with that, whether it's constipation, whether it's diarrhea, whether it's cramping or bloating or gas. Those are all signs being sent to you saying, hey, there's something not working here. You can't keep on living like that.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that we have 2 types of vision. One of the types of vision is focal vision. And in the West, and I think probably globally now, most people are overly focused because of the computer screens, whether it's a smartphone or a laptop, whatever, during the day. So people are using too much of their energy on that kind of thing, which is fine, as long as you really do take those breaks that they talk about, every hour, every half an hour. There are things that you can do to mimic normal eye movement. And because basically it's like holding a barbell out in front of you. It might be a 2-pound barbell, it doesn't matter at the start of the day, but if you're focusing on the specific spot, 18 inches away all day, what ends up happening is that 2-pound weight suddenly feels like 200 pounds by the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And it's actually feeding into your neck muscles and back muscles and contributing to that backache or headache. Whereas if we are out in the open, walking around, that's one of the reasons why it's so relaxing, because in order for us to really truly feel safe, we need to have that more global peripheral vision system being activated. So just because we are at work trying to do a job doesn't mean that our bodies don't need to have that regular check-in. Really about every 20 minutes would be optimal, that you just take a breath, look far, and then up close again. Focus on what you're seeing in the outside of your periphery rather than what's straight in front of you. It actually will give your brain a break.
Okay, good. Now, how can one control emotions?
Well, obviously it's really important to control one's emotions at work, because when your boss is a jerk, it's a survival mechanism to stay employed, right? So what I think of it as, emotions, those neurochemicals that are heading into the body, it's really important to think of that as a flow of a river, say, for example. So you might have times when you need to have a dam that prevents a release, especially a strong release. But I sort of think of it as a controlled release method, right? So if you don't end up having the ability to take that on, say, on a daily basis when you get home and you have a meditation practice, if you've had a hard day, over time, you're going to have a breach of the dam. And a lot of times we don't want the messages that we're getting from our body from those neurochemicals, those neuropeptides, because we need to pay the mortgage. And it's so hard sometimes, it seems. We're so busy to try and devote the time to get a different job that might suit us better, or change careers, or deal with the problems that we're having in our relationships. Mm-hmm. So, but all of those things, if we don't take them on a little bit at a time, certainly, even once a week with meditation makes such a difference. Otherwise, we really are at risk for having the dam burst. And, we all know stories of people that act out in ways that are not in their highest and best interest. And really a little bit, it's kind of like a spoonful of sugar or something, the medicine of the wisdom of the body is easier to take if we make sure that we check in on a regular basis. And it keeps us healthy and well. It's sort of the apple a day idea.
I find that in this age of disruption and change and just doing more with less kind of attitudes that we have, that if I don't do that, then there is consequences. And I find that people are so driven into that we forget to take that step back and say, you know what, I'm a human being. I'm not a machine. Mm-hmm. I do need to take it easy. But unfortunately, I think they feel that if they do step back and do that, then they'll be judged as being incompetent or not capable or being too mm-hmm. emotional or all that. And unfortunately, that's why we're holding all these emotions in, because we can't. If we let them out, then that's not right, or then you're not perfect, kind of mm-hmm. thing. We need to move away from that we're not perfect. We're human beings. We are meant to have emotions. Hello. And we are meant to be in touch with that. Otherwise, what's the point? Then we might as well just be machines. So, yes. Yeah. So
I think
what is,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think companies, certainly forward-thinking companies, are realizing the importance of the right brain for creativity, and they're looking into ways to bring programs like yoga and meditation to their employees who might be a little resistant on their own. Certainly it can seem odd to somebody who's maybe from a small town, from the middle of the country, to really think about. It just seems so different, and they, maybe feel judged as you're learning how to do it. To just learn how to have some patience with oneself as one learns it. And corporations have seen results. They have higher productivity, people are making better decisions, and there's less employee absenteeism. They're saving money by doing it.
That's right. And for those of you who are hesitant, I just have to say, you know what? Start by going on YouTube and looking at some videos that you can just start doing at home, right?
Exactly.
On how to manage stress and illness. There's so much information out there that you can tap into that you don't have to even say, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. Start with the technology that you have, like YouTube, and start there. There is no harm in that. And that's where I started when I was told to exercise by my oncologist, and he just kept on stressing, exercise. And I thought, well, I can't even take 5 steps without just losing my stamina. I was that weak at one point, and I did tell him that, and he's kept on saying, it doesn't matter, just start somewhere. So I knew I couldn't walk outside, but I started at home, and I said, let me look on YouTube, and there was great walking videos that I could do at home, and I loved it, and I just kept on building my stamina from there. But what I noticed, it wasn't just about stamina, it was about the mental health. I felt so good after doing it that it almost became, and I don't like using the word addiction, but it almost became like, if I don't do walking today, I'm not going to feel good, so I better go do it.
Yes. Well, the 2 hemispheres of our brain communicate through the corpus callosum. It's a structure that crosses neurons over from one side to the other so that the 2 hemispheres can communicate. And physical exercise, we're moving the right half of our body with our left brain, the left half of our body with our right brain. It's an opportunity for those 2 hemispheres to communicate with each other. And that also gives us a sense of safety and wellness, in addition to the endorphins that end up getting produced.
Yeah. So we're almost to the end of our time here. Can you believe it? But what I wanted to ask you, Elizabeth, is what are some of the tips or strategies that you could share? Like, maybe three tips that you can give us on how someone can thrive in life if they're going through, or if they've gone through illness or trauma or PTSD, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, it's important to drink water for a number of reasons. First off, the brain functions better. It helps to de-stress the body to be properly hydrated. And additionally, to make sure that one does it about 20 minutes to half an hour before one eats. That's some Ayurvedic wisdom, which I really learned a lot from Ayurveda, and I really value the input that I've gotten from there. Super important. So the idea is that the body has a biofeedback mechanism, and how hydrated the stomach lining is to protect it from if we don't have proper hydration, we end up under the stomach acid, so we don't break the food down properly, and we don't end up getting the building blocks that we need to stay healthy. So those 2 things right there are super helpful. And then, as you said, the exercise. A lot of people feel like they're so stressed and they have a hard time committing to doing exercise. But the super important thing about that is we basically are movement machines. The idea is that if we're not developing our brain is atrophying. The synaptic connections that connect to movement and allow our processing speed to stay as active and capable as possible are actually being pruned away. So it's important on a daily basis to stay challenged in balance. And it's really not enough to walk. Walking is great, but that's why yoga is so beneficial, because it's challenging the up and down, the side to side, and the forward and backward, which are actually run by 3 different areas of our brain. So the forward and backward is the primitive brain, and the side to side is the outer layer, the cortex, and then the other one, last one, losing my train of thought, is for the limbic. So if we just running, it's just going forward, right? I mean, not many of us run backwards, and same with walking. So it's important to have all different types of movement.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. Now, where can people get your book from? Which is, I'm just going to say it again. It's Your Best Health by Friday: How to Overcome Anxiety, Depression, Stress, Trauma, PTSD, and Chronic Illness.
Well, it's available online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's also available at lulu.com, which is a self-publishing site that I worked with. And in addition, it's available so that your library could order it, or your local independent bookstore if you'd like to support your local independent bookstore. I'm a big fan of doing that.
Okay, wonderful. Would you like to add anything else before we end here?
I'd just like to add, if possible, to also an important thing is to talk kindly to oneself. I think a lot of us have a strong inner critic, and that is stressful in itself. Certainly, most of us are, very well-meaning people, and when we make a mistake, to talk to ourselves as an encouraging coach or a kind and loving, benevolent parent, rather than perhaps that inner critic that is trying to keep us safe but stressing us out, is a really important way to stay healthy too.
That's such a great way to end the show. Be kind to yourself. Well, I have really enjoyed this interview, and every time I interview anyone, I learn so much more, thing just that I didn't know, or it was a good refresher to just get that message again. So again, Elizabeth Gould, thank you so much for being on our show. And I would highly encourage that you check her book out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and make sure you get that for yourself or for anyone else who you think would really benefit from going through the book or from this interview. Share the interview. So again, for my next show, I'm going to have Al-Nur Damji, who is an amazing person. He's a speaker as well, but he's going to talk about his weight loss journey, because he went through quite a bit and he lost a lot of weight, but just what he learned about himself in the process. So stay tuned for that. And again, my name is Zaheen. This is Thrive in Life show. You can access the free course that I have just created at zaheennanji.com/motivation. Until next time, goodbye and thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for listening to Thrive in Life with your hosts, Zaheen Nanji. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit ZaheenNanji.com. That's ZaheenNanji.com. We'll catch you on the next episode of Thrive in Life.